Bonjour and benvenue, and welcome to a very special episode of the Wicked Web Weave podcast. I am your host, Ryan Mckern, and today we go into a very heartbreaking and gut-wrenching story. Just one of many medical facilities during Hurricane Katrina. In Hurricane Katrina and after, that caused the deaths of so many. Please join me in listening to the story of recognizing and not forgetting those who have perished due to these circumstances. Thank you so much for joining me on the Wicked Web Weave podcast. And with further ado, we begin our night story. Just like many other buildings, Memorial Medical Center in New Orleans was hit by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The storm impacted the Grand Central greatly. The levee had failed and waters was rising. The hospital was left without electricity. Even during this time, Deanna Poe and other staff continued to try and take care of the patients at the hospital. It was stated that the patients would be relocated on August 31st. This is 2 days after the storm had hit. However, it was unsure where they would be located to. On the 11th of September, 45 bodies were recovered from the center. 5 of the bodies were deceased before the storm had hit. There were 215 bodies found throughout the different medical centers and nursing homes. However, the medical center had the highest body count. Many people would use the hospital as a safe place from the storm, as they had on many other occasions. However, despite all the years of safety, the hospital would be hit hard. The windows would shatter and the rocks and people were screaming. The hospital itself was shaking. The power had failed around 5 a.m. The generators that hospital had quickly kicked in. This reassured patients that things would be okay. However, the generators powering only lights for emergencies. Much of the needed equipment had shut down, plus the air conditioning was off. The first night, flooding had receded. There was damage, however, it remained operational. The morning of the hurricane, Poe was told to look outside by a fellow nurse. Poe said the water was coming quickly out of the sewer gates. The water was filled with garbage and it was heading directly towards the hospital. The staff was worried because the electrical panel was only a few feet above ground level. This left the system very vulnerable. It would not take a lot of water to dispose and disable most of the hospital. It was hard to figure out what to do if there was no power, or how to evacuate it if the streets are flooded. The staff typed emails with the word help to other hospitals outside the area. They would need to relocate about 200 patients. There was a lot of controversy about how the hospital should be emptied. It was decided that those who were pregnant, babies in the NICU, and those in the ICU should go first, because they would be at risk from the heat. He said the patients with no resuscitation orders would go last. It was the year after the storm, and Powell and the 2 other nurses were being charged with second-degree murder. They were being charged with the deaths of several patients of Memorial Medical Center. The state had taken almost a year to investigate the claims. However, the jury would refuse to indict Poe on the counts of murder. Charges would not stick and eventually be expunged. The state would also be liable for the legal fees that Poe had. People believe that the case would never have gone as far as it did. However, in 2008, Coldwell would testify to support the position that the lawyers had taken for Poe. They wanted to keep the records of the investigation out of the public's eye. They did this because the case files would lead to a new case. The year after, the district attorney had testified that people were killed by the actions of doctors after the hurricane. However, he did not believe that these deaths could be prosecuted based on a lack of evidence. The 4 years after the hurricane, Dr. Poe had helped write these laws. These laws were passed to help after immunity to those who are healthcare providers. It would protect them against civil lawsuits. However, it would not protect them from witness misconduct. This would help protect doctors in the future who decide to help those from the storms. It also encourages those who are prosecuting to wait to find out what a medical panel has to say before prosecuting. It is urging to change the standards of medical care during emergencies like Hurricane Katrina. She is urging those who are evacuating patients to take those who do not have resuscitation orders, are severely injured, or are severely sick to be evacuated last. Those who are in the relatively good health or not severely injured should be evacuated first. Stated that getting consent during natural disasters is very difficult because many people are in comas or even on the deathbeds. Some people are so injured or out of it that they have no idea what is going on. That is what makes this so difficult. States that she used the approach of those who are the sickest and injured to help treat the patients during the hurricane. Since the case has closed, there have been lead documents and other items that put the case into a new light. The doctor stated that she would be injecting patients who were close to death with midazolam or morphine. She would use this to eliminate the suffering patients would endure after they were no longer able to breathe on their own or live without equipment. The power had gone out 2 days after the storm hit, and generators did not last long. This caused many people to suffer, and that is why the drug was given. However, there were 17 people who were injected. Some of them were very ill. However, there were several patients that were not severely ill. When they received a fatal dose, to this day, she refuses to discuss anything relating to the death of the patients during the emergency. In an interview, she asked, "How long should we have to stay with the patients who will likely die. She stated that she had to make many decisions. She had to determine which patients would get resources. This is why it's so difficult to charge Poe with murder, because she was put into a tough situation because the government failed to evacuate properly. It is said that those who died after the hurricane hit are leaving their mark on the property. It is said the spirits are not leaving because they were not given justice. The building has decayed faster than people initially thought it would, and is believed to happen due to the injustice that was served to those who had died. It is said that the ghosts, those who died or were killed, are roaming around the halls. Perhaps it is a jail. It seems as if the ghosts cannot move past this incident, and that they are trapped here for all eternity. One instance that happened was when someone had turned on the corner to a room and caught fire after the storm. The room had burnt point ships. She saw bodies on the wall, and her breath was taken away. The woman saw flames and had to blink to make sure they were not real. Pooh had wrongly administered doses of medications to kill whoever were deathly ill. However, while she did not help people that not suffer, several patients were not ill at the time of administration, which causes controversy. Today, the halls are filled with those who lost their lives during this horrible storm, and it is said that you can hear their cries from outside the hospital. Tonight's episode is going with my heart and soul to anyone who has lost someone to this tragedy. Don'tLookGhost.com's NewYorkTimes.com. In research for this episode. Thank you for joining me again for these tales on the Wicked Webs We Weave podcast. I am your host, Ryan Mckern. And until we meet again, au revoir.